the next step of the curriculum cycle, you're going to document the current curriculum that you are teaching in your class. To do this, we will show our horizontal curriculum, or sometimes you've maybe heard of it as scope and sequence. You do not need to go into a ton of detail here, but at minimum you should have the units that you cover, so the unit name, and then the lessons that you go through, so the lesson name or content. How you do this is totally up to you. The format that you do this is not the focus, the content is. What I do ask though is that you would record it online virtually somehow. So if you have a 3-ring binder full of a ton of lessons, that's awesome if you can just record what the names of those lessons are somehow virtually, because eventually we will want to publish this amongst each other at minimum, and hopefully to the public someday as well, so they can see the awesome things that we are doing. I linked a template that you may choose to use. Again, you certainly don't have to. It's the unit plan template here. If you click on it, it will ask you to make a copy so that we aren't all using the same document. This is what comes up when you do it. You have a blank sheet here that you can fill out to make a copy of this. If you chose to do this, you just click on this guy, duplicate, and then you can add as many units as you'd like to. This is an example of a unit template that I used for my teaching days. Again, you do not have to use this. You are more than welcome to. This is just a chance for some of those teachers who are post-it teachers who plan lessons by the day to now kind of document and think big picture. What am I covering and when am I covering it? I will stick around and show you some of the things that I did with this. If you're not interested, that's totally fine. You can move on to the next video if you choose, but I will be going over that. Some tips if you do choose to use a Google spreadsheet like this that I've found helpful over the years. Really emphasizing the difference is using this borders button. This allows you to see that everything has its separate areas. I'm a little bit OCD like that, so that has helped me. I also use a lot, you can see these boxes here don't have that line in between. That's because I've merged the boxes. So what you do to merge is you highlight whatever boxes you want to go together, and you press this guy here, which is merge cells, and that then becomes one thing. So I'm going to unmerge those back. And there is no highlight, so I'm going to go back to my border to show those are two separate things. Another thing that's helpful is wrap text. So that's this guy right here. When you don't press it, your text will do that thing where it goes on for days and you're like scrolling away trying to see where it ends. This makes it so it just stays all in that cell. So I use that as well. I found it easier to separate the day of the week. That helps our more visual persons to be able to see that calendar and then the date. So these, when I do teach a new class, I literally just go through and change all the dates. Here's where I put my learning targets or lesson essential questions for each of my lessons. This is where I document the activities that go with each of those learning targets or that go with each of the days, so you can easily see the difference between what's covered in a day and what goes with each of those lesson essential questions or learning targets. I include a vocabulary column so students can see very easily what vocabulary is being covered in what activities. And then I separate concepts from vocabulary. These are the more meatier, higher level thinking that students will have to do at certain parts of the lesson. I utilized a textbook, so I also included textbook pages that went with the activities that students could reference if they needed help. I included a column where students could see when certain work was assigned and when certain work was due on which day, so they could keep track of that. I included a column for additional resources, so if there were any, for example, Khan Academy videos that students could use to extend their thinking, they could do it there. As a science teacher, I liked to have another column for all the different materials I needed, so I could look to a few days ahead and see, oh yeah, I need puffballs and Mike and Ike's. You don't usually think that each day, but as a science teacher that was helpful, so steal that if you want. I included a column for standards. This said the standard number, and then it also included the actual standard itself, when there was activities that explicitly reached that standard. Now, this activity goes with the standard, but these are all still really important things that led up to there. It's just that this is the one activity that shows I am meeting that standard right there for science. There's also a column for the why behind why that's being taught. That would be like the data. What is showing that we need to be teaching that? This is overall for one unit, but I broke that unit up into different like subunits, and that's what these are. So here's my overall unit essential question, and here's my kind of subunit section learning targets that I would go through each time. This is a ton of stuff, and I realize it might be a little bit overwhelming. You guys are totally capable of doing that. If you want, I would be more than willing to spend time with you if you want to steal bits and pieces. Again, if you don't want to take any of this, that's totally fine. I would just hope somehow that you could record at minimum that unit name and lesson name. If you want to do the standard now, you'll be saving yourself some time for the next step, but again, that's up to you. We'll talk to you soon. Let me know if you guys need help.